It's basketball season, John. Welcome to 2024. I didn't mean to shock Jeff's dog with that.
Wow, that was exciting. That was exciting. Well, welcome to another new year, my friend.
Yeah.
2024. Here we go.
Did I just say 2023 a minute ago? I meant 2024.
No, you said 2024.
Okay.
You got it right.
It usually takes a little while, right? I don't really write checks anymore, but that used to be a thing. Write the wrong date on the check.
Thank God. There's something wrong about a man carrying a checkbook. I don't know. Well, this is an interesting show.
Writing checks.
Yeah, it's just absurd. So this is going to be a huge show. We have got some major developments to share with the audience tonight, both on YouTube and for our patrons. And because it's the first show of the new year, I wanted to do something somewhat special for the YouTube audience. And so we are going to share with the YouTube audience a couple of video clips that I use pretty regularly in my content, the first one. And then at the end of the show, we have a pretty special wrap-up that we're going to share with the audience. So before we get into the deck and any of that stuff, why don't we begin with something that sort of explains what we're doing here with the thumbnail. And so I don't want to say too much. Let's just play the video for the audience, and then we'll talk about it afterwards, and I'll explain what the connection is with this and tonight's show. So let's let this run and see what we see.
Right.
The monkey business illusion. Count how many times the players wearing white pass the ball. The correct answer is 16 passes. Did you spot the gorilla? For people who haven't seen or heard about a video like this before, about half miss the gorilla. If you knew about the gorilla, you probably saw it, but did you notice the curtain changing color or the player on the black team leaving the game? Let's rewind and watch it again. Here comes the gorilla, and there goes a player, and the curtain is changing from red to gold. When you're looking for a gorilla, you often miss other unexpected events. And that's the monkey business illusion. Learn more about this illusion and the original gorilla experiment at theinvisiblegorilla.com.
So that's an example of a couple different types of biases, right? So one is anchoring bias. You were told, count how many passes the people in the white shirts are making. And
Pay no attention to the gorilla.
Pay no attention. Pay no attention to anything that's not in a white shirt, right? If it's not in the white shirt, ignore it, right? It's a green shirt, yellow shirt. It has nothing to do with what you're doing.
I didn't notice the person leaving or the curtain changing until he said it, and I've seen this before.
So, and that's what makes this so powerful, is that there are people who've seen the gorilla illusion before, and so they're like, oh yeah, the gorilla, yeah. But they don't notice the curtain goes from red to the same color as the floor. It changes from red to gold, and one of the people on the black team just walks out of the game, just leaves.
Yeah. Right.
And most people don't notice all these things at the same time. No. And so the point of this is sometimes when you're looking for a gorilla, you miss something else, right? And so
a lot of stuff.
Yeah. And so tonight's show, if you go back to the thumbnail now and show everybody what we did with the thumbnail. So the gorilla illusion is a bunch of people passing basketballs back and forth, and a gorilla walks out in the midst of it. And I've seen this. This is why I used to use this at work, by the way. I used to give presentations to big, banks and stuff, New York Stock Exchange and all that. And I would use this as a demonstration to kind of humble a room full of people.
Big
very
words.
quickly. Yeah. And you want
People who think
everybody
they know
humble real
everything.
quick. Right. And real quickly becomes apparent that if you're not necessarily looking for something, you're probably not going to find it.
Yeah.
Probably not going to find it, right? And the funny thing is, sometimes these things are right in front of your nose. It's right there. And so people who missed the gorilla, people who missed the curtain color change, people who missed the person just leaving the game, you weren't looking for it, and it was right in front of you. And so when you do see it afterwards, you kind of feel so embarrassed. and that's how I feel right now.
About the curtain. Yeah.
Well, that's how I feel about all the work I've done for almost 4 years, right? So you first asked me to scratch the surface on this in March of 2020. You said something's up. This is weird. And that was March of 2020. So we're almost at 4 years. And the fact that it took me this long to realize I was wrong is embarrassing. It's incredibly embarrassing. But it's also kind of fun because you don't hear anybody else say, I was wrong. I don't hear that from McCullough. I don't hear that from Pierre Corey. I don't hear that from Bob Malone. From who?
Claudine Gay.
Claudine Gay? I thought you said Marvin Gaye. I was going to say, no, he's
Marvin
dead.
Gaye.
Yeah, Claudine Gay.
Yes.
Yeah, Claudine Gay. No, she's never wrong. But in the world of COVID, you don't hear people say, you know what? I was wrong. I thought that back then, but the new stuff has come out, and I don't think that anymore. For whatever reason, I was born without an ego or something. It's like I just don't care if I'm wrong. It's like to me, it's like it's perfectly fine to be wrong if you have new information. And it's something that Larry Ellison used to talk about. And it's in one of the video clips. And he said, I don't want to be wrong, right? If you've got information, you got data, and you got a cogent argument, I want to hear it. Of course, tell me about it. What do you mean I'm wrong, right? Tell me what do you mean? Show me this evidence. What are you talking about? So what are we getting at here? Well, what we're getting at is the gorilla illusion is a wonderful metaphor for what we're going to call the chicken illusion. And the chicken illusion is very similar to the gorilla illusion, except we're going to use a chicken, okay? And instead of basketball
It's so technical,
players,
John. I can barely follow. Hang on a second.
well, that's why all the virologists and epidemiologists can't stand me, because I explain this shit with chicken and basketball players, and and they want to talk about dimers and things.
He's got
like
a
that.
jersey.
Yeah, and neurominidase. I don't need neurominidase. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Instead of basketball players, I need a raccoon dog. I need a bat, and I need a pangolin. So if we had so just imagine, just use your imagination. Imagine we've got a raccoon dog, we got a pangolin, we got a bat, and we got a chicken.
Making soup?
And the pangolins and the bats and the raccoon dogs are passing the basketball back and forth. And the chicken walks out instead of the gorilla, and nobody notices the chicken. And it's like, well, that's because the raccoon dogs are so cute, right? And then we got a bunch of bats, and nobody's ever seen bats passing basketballs before. So everybody's fascinated with the bats, with the basketballs. And then you got pangolins. What the hell is a pangolin? We got pangolins in the picture, and nobody notices the chicken. And so this is the chicken illusion. And what we're going to explore tonight when we go through our deck with our YouTube audience are some fundamentals that we've learned over the course of the last couple weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that led us to this incredible discovery over the last 48, 72 hours. So why don't we step through a couple of these slides before we have to go to the patron only part. And when we go with our patrons, so you tell everybody where to find us to do the patron only, because we're going deep tonight. This is incredible breaking information. And this basically changes the entire narrative. And I was wrong. It was not 1918 H1N1 Spanish flu.
But the thing is, it's not about being right or wrong. Sometimes you need to, when we were working on the 3D cameras, sometimes you went down a road of trying something that you really had to go pretty significantly far down to realize, wait a minute, this is wrong. You back up, and then you go forward. But it's not
It's called iterative. It's called an iterative
exactly.
approach.
You wouldn't get to this branch of the road if you hadn't explored all of that. So I think people are going to be blown away when they join us later at 8 o'clock on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, odyssey.com/@crowdsourcethetruth, crowdsourcethetruth.substack.com, and Subscribestar and Patreon/crowdsourcethetruth.
You're right about that, what you just said a moment ago. And this is, I spoke about this a week or two ago. This method that I tend to use is called the McKinsey method. And there's a book, and it's what they use at McKinsey, where
Charles would not like that.
Yeah, that's all right. But the method's very effective. It's a very effective method. And so the net of it is, I used 1918 H1N1 as a straw man in my hypothesis. And I said, based on the symptoms I'm hearing, it sounds like the Blue Death, hypoxia, cyanosis, blue lips, ground glass opacity, cytokine storms. This is all consistent with the 1918 Spanish flu. We knew that Fauci resurrected it, and it seemed like, well, gee whiz, if that got out, that would be kind of bad, right? He'd want to keep that a secret. But it turns out that's not what it was. And so the McKinsey method lets you, or kind of guides you that, so what you do now is you just take your straw man hypothesis and you take that off the board. And it's like, it's not H1 1918, it's not that.
Wait a second, because this is one of these words that people hear all the time. Give us the elevator pitch on what a straw man hypothesis is.
Okay, so it's like, imagine I'm setting, so I'll use your lingo in your world. I'm setting up a shot, and I'm the director. I'm Clint Eastwood. I'm the director and the star of the movie. So if I'm setting up the shot, I need a straw man. I need give me a, I need somebody to stand in so I can frame the shot, because I'm the director and I'm in the shot. So the straw man, right. So the straw man acts as a stand-in temporary, and then we sort of, we work around that. And the minute it starts to fall apart, we say, well, then what does it appear to be? Right? So it's not that this necessarily fell apart. It's that new evidence presented itself that we looked at last week with our patrons, but the YouTube audience doesn't know any of this stuff yet. So we're going to share a little bit of that as far as what we found in Wuhan in the first 41 patients. And so we're going to take a closer look at that. Why don't we go to the slide deck and let me show the audience kind of where we're at. I don't know, where are you in the slide deck? It looks like you're far along past where I am.
Oh, is that? Oh, no, sorry. I just was, off the top of the dome coming up with stuff.
Yeah, no, that's in the deck.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's in the deck. All right, so let's go to the, let's just go through the slides. Let me just show everybody what we got here. So we just did the gorilla illusion, and that's kind of the setup. So we're doing the chicken illusion.
Ding the video when you put his logo in there. The guy doesn't ding the video for playing that.
No, he loves it. Are you kidding? Because I share that it's his copyright. That's the idea. That's why they love that. All right. So remember the gorilla illusion. I've been working on a new illusion. You start with a bat, a pangolin, and a raccoon dog in Wuhan, China. Did you see the chicken? That's the setup for tonight's show. All right. We got a pangolin, a bat, and a raccoon dog in Wuhan, China. We got the Wuhan games. We got she, the bat lady. We got Peter Daszak, all that. Did you notice the chicken? All right. So let's go to the next slide. Everybody seems to be talking about the disappearance of influenza. And in tonight's show with the patrons, I'm going to be able to explain the disappearance of influenza. Now, if you go to the next, so that looks like Jordan Schachtel. That's Tyler Durden from Zero Hedge. You've got Dr. Ely David. You got Martin Neal. You got Doc Malik. Everybody's talking about the disappearance of influenza, right? Viva Fry. Everybody's talking about disappearance of influenza. Nobody knows what the hell they're talking about. Go to the next slide. Now, I'm the one who wrote the white paper. So in October of 2020, I took a white paper that some other people wrote that said influenza activity in Australia, Chile, and United States and South Africa is nominal. And you and I had been looking at these charts, and I'm like, well, what about Sweden? What about the Netherlands? What about Hungary? Did you guys have an appointment to get to? You just wrap up the paper when you get to 4? And so I document 100 and something other countries with the same exact phenomenon. In other words, if you said, listen, I tested 4 porpoises and I found this, this, and this, and I said, yeah, and I tested 100 more porpoises and I found the same damn thing. Do I need to write a whole, how many pages? Let's call Mrs. Gay at Harvard and ask her how many pages I need to write. I found the same thing. It went away in 100 other countries. So there wasn't really a whole lot to add other than you nitwits missed 104 countries, right? So other than that, you kind of got it right, right? So go to the next page. Yeah, you'll see on the next page, I document well over 100 countries it disappears in, right? So it's not just hyperbole. It really was over 100 countries, okay? So all this stuff is happening. I'm the one who documents it. All these nitwits are trying to now explain what I wrote as a goof. I wrote this as a Queen's Gambit. It's a joke. It's absurd. Influenza disappeared from Earth in 28 days. And by April 15th, it was gone for 2 years.
It's amazing.
So what we were trying to figure out, was this subterfuge? Is this the fax machine in Geneva's broken? It ran out of paper. They didn't pay the phone bill. How did influenza just disappear from Earth in all these countries at the same time? Well, tonight I'm going to explain to you how that happened, or how it appeared to have happened, without any subterfuge. Nobody had to give anybody $1 million. Nobody had to do anything. It's like, what? Nobody got bribed? No. Nobody had a, no. What? Huh? What? That's what we're going to look at with the patrons. So let's look at Peter Daszak. December 30th. What's he talking about? December 30th. Why is Peter Daszak worried that some people have pneumonia in Wunu, Wushu, Wuha, Woohoop? Never heard of the place. Wuhak. Where is this? And a couple people have pneumonia? How many are dead, Pete? Give me a number, Pete. How many are dead? None? None are dead. None are dead. How many? Are their eyes falling out? Is this hemorrhagic, Pete? Why are you so worried that there's some... You're calling ProMed? You're calling Larry Madoff over ProMed in Cambridge? Nobody's dead yet, Pete. You and Hillary have this tendency to jump the gun. Hillary wants mail-in voting and there's not 200 people dead. And you're notifying ProMed to call the WHO that there's an outbreak in Wuhan and nobody's dead, bro. Nobody's dead. That's called jumping the gun, okay? Now, how do we know nobody's dead? Because we go and we look at the WHO and we ask the WHO, how many people were dead? And you go to the next slide and the guy on the WHO says, January 10th, the first guy died. He had a tumor in his abdomen and he had liver disease.
Ugh.
But, you know, other than that, he was healthy,
Yeah,
Mrs. Lincoln.
that doesn't sound so good.
What do you think of the play? Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, what do you think of the play? So he's got an abdominal tumor, he's got liver disease, and he dies. He's the first guy to die. All right, so the second guy to die is January 15th, okay? But Peter Daszak's already talking to ProMed. He's already telling ProMed, hey, you guys, you know, go to the next slide. Yeah, January 11th. We got 41 cases. We got one guy dead, died the previous day. And he's already notified ProMed 10 days ago. Why is he telling ProMed, I'm really concerned that these people have pneumonia in Wushu, China? Why? Is it hemorrhagic? Did their eyes fall out? What is going on here? Why are you so worried?
Why does it say
nobody's dead?
What does it mean, undiagnosed?
Undiagnosed pneumonia. I mean, they got pneumonia, they're sick, and gee willikers, we can't seem to figure it out. Well, I'm calling BS on that because now we have the test results from the first 41 patients. Ooh. And so let's keep going because I don't want to run out of time here.
Because if you're sick and you go to the doctor and he says you have pneumonia, isn't that a diagnosis? What is undiagnosed? Well,
he doesn't know the cause, right? So what created the pneumonia? Was it influenza? Was it Coxsackie? Was it RSV
So
was
that
it
goes along with
COVID?
being
Was
a
it?
novel virus.
Well, no, it just, we don't know why you have pneumonia.
Okay.
It's not that it's necessarily novel. Could be H3N2, could be
They're just not
H5N1,
checking
H1N1.
that hard.
We just don't know. We
haven't gotten
just
around
don't
to
know.
figuring it out.
Haven't gotten it because nobody's dead, so we don't actually give a shit. Is the truth? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. January 14th. We still don't even know if. No, go back a slide. January 14th is the day we don't know if it's even contagious. All right. So January 14th, we don't know if it's contagious between people, but the Moderna contract was already signed the day before, January 13th. All right, so we don't know if it's contagious on the 14th. We find out it's contagious later. Let's go to the next slide. 4 days later, we got another guy dies. So this is January 15th. Second guy dies 4 days later. We go all the way forward. Let's go on one more slide. Let's jump all the way ahead. 3 weeks in now, we got 9 people dead in 3 weeks. Isn't that exciting? 3 weeks in, January 22nd, 3 weeks after New Year's, okay? We got 9 people dead in China, all of China. Okay,
Doesn't seem
9.
that urgent.
All right, let's go next. The next slide is a calendar. And the calendar is going to help people kind of understand what happened and when it happened. So if you take a closer look, what you're going to see is that on January the 10th, the first guy dies. Okay? January the 11th, the WHO tells us the first guy died, and they gave us the genetic sequence.
All right.
Boom!
Fast.
First guy dies. Here's the genetic sequence. Okay? Now, according to Brad Wenstrup, the Republican, you see, this is why YouTube is starting to like us. Brad Wenstrup's a Republican. Mm-hmm. According to Brad Wenstrup, the Republican, China's lying. What, Brad? They gave you the sequence the day after they found out a guy died. What, did you want the sequence before anybody died? How many more sequences you want then? What?
Isn't it like when you go to the Chinese restaurant, you order and the food just comes out like that? They're on it.
Exactly. So we got one guy dead, 41 cases, and they give us the genetic sequence.
Nice.
And Brad Wenstrup isn't satisfied. It reminds me of my first ex-wife in the divorce settlement. It's like, dude, you got the thing. What more than the thing are you looking for? You got the genetic sequence, and he wants more. Absolutely.
What is it?
Like my first ex-wife.
What is he saying they're lying about?
Well, that's the thing. It's like, what are they lying about? They gave you the genetic sequence.
But what was he saying they lied about?
He's just reading a script that says they lied. He doesn't, there's no specificity there.
That's interesting.
All right, so
but someone watches that and just says, oh, China lied.
China's lying, right. Now, Monday, the 13th of January, go back to Monday the 13th on the calendar. Monday, the 13th of January, President Trump signs the Moderna deal.
All right.
And Tuesday, the 14th, the WHO says, yeah, we're still not sure if it's contagious. Then Wednesday, the 15th, the WHO says, okay, now we got a second guy dead. A week later, on the 22nd, they say, okay, we went from 2 guys dead to 9. So basically, we had 1 person die a day this week. Okay? In the United States, 4,000 people are dying a week from something else. Okay?
And they're not
so
paying
January
attention
1st,
to that.
Well, let's take a look. Next slide. So the next slide is January 1st to January 22nd. 13,100 people die in the United States.
Wow.
9
More than 9
died in China.
Yeah, it's more.
Right. 9 died in China. And 13,000 were dying in the United States. So now I'll go to the next slide, which is March. Nothing really happens of significance in February, and that's usually true, right? So nothing of significance really happens in February. We go to March, and in March, stuff starts happening. March 10th. No, you were on the calendar. You were there.
Oh, sorry.
Go back to the calendar.
But actually,
All right,
wait,
so
I got to
March
slow
10th.
you down, John, because we're out of time here. We got to go over. Yeah, this is all.
Oh, you guys. Oh, my God. You are going to flip out when you guys see what's coming, because this gets crazy. It's just, what a show we have tonight. The patrons are going to, I mean, this changes the whole, everything. Changes everything. We got to go out with the bumper. So I'm not going to say another word. Let's play that bumper film for everybody. And for patrons, we'll see in just a couple minutes, man. This is going to be one heck of a show tonight.
Okay.
You're going to want to watch it twice.
A large poultry farm over in Minnesota, which supplied some of the biggest supermarkets in America with 3 million eggs per day, well, it burned to the ground. However, if you've been paying attention over the past year or so, then you know that this is not the only fire to have taken place.
This is in Salinas, a huge fire at a food processing plant. This is for Taylor Farms.
2 chicken houses caught on fire in the Ruston community in Jones County last night. About 10 o'clock on Pleasant Grove Road, firefighters said they found the 2 chicken houses completely engulfed in flames with the roofs already collapsed. Workers at the scene said chickens were being housed at the time of the fire.
We head to Basra now, where crews were on the scene of a massive fire at an egg farm earlier this afternoon. The fire broke out at the Hillendale Farms location on Schwartz Road. The Salvation Army says around 100,000 chickens may have died in that fire.
Yes, the same kind of story that seems to come down from long ago. 2 friends having coffee together, or something flies by their window. It might be out on that lawn, which is wide at least half of